Welcome back, everybody, to the What's He On About podcast. I'm your host, Charlie, and today we're going to be talking through everything that's happened this week in the world of cricket. We'll be reviewing the England versus West Indies white ball tour. We'll be having a look forward to the Australia and India Test match series. We'll be having a look at maybe a few of the moments of the week, and we'll maybe give out an award called the What's He On About Moment of the Week. Just thought of that on the spot. And then we'll end off with a little question just to get the listeners thinking and see if you've got the cricket knowledge. So grab yourself a snack, a drink, take a lovely comfy seat, and ask yourself as you're listening, what is he on about? Let's begin things off today with England versus West Indies. England took a beautiful victory in the T20 series, winning the final T20 series 3-1. The last game was rained off, and there are a few great things to take from this series, despite it being a win toss win game series. But we'll get onto that later. First of all, a couple of great performances from the players. I want to just take a special time to mention Jos Buttler and Phil Salt. What a great series it's been for those two. I mean, they're really printing themselves as the headliners for this team. You know, they're really putting themselves in that position to be the players moving forward for this white ball team. Buttler and Salt put in a couple of great performances, and they're becoming the team, the two players that oppositions are going to be really scared of looking forward. Buttler was always that guy, but Salt is really just putting himself alongside Jos Buttler, which is not an easy thing to do. So it's been a great series, a great couple of weeks for Phil Salt. Another great end to the series for Jacob Bethel. I mean, he's impressed us all. We've talked about him before on the podcast, and he's now averaging 58 in T20 internationals, which I think is absolutely ludicrous. Jacob Bethel with a high score of 62 not out in the series, coming in at number 4, crucial position to bat. And Jacob Bethel is really showing that he's going to be in the next white ball team for England. He's just put himself in that bracket, and I don't think anyone can shove him out of there. A few other great performances for Livingston and Curran, working our way down the batting order. You know, they've had some pretty good results. They've had a decent series. They've definitely not played their way out of the side. Livingston put in a great performance in the ODI series as captain and has really bounced back from that tricky Australia series in England. So Curran as well, he's had a good series. He's showed why he should be batting six. He's had some great little knocks, and he's bowled okay as well. Again, these lads are just really making sure they've not lost their place, and they're still very much important players in this team. Now, Saqib Mahmood. Let's take a look at these stats from this series. He has bowled tremendously well. Saqib Mahmood averaging in this T20 series, the 4 games, he averaged with the ball 10.5. And while all the fireworks were going on around him, we're going to come on to a lovely over from Liam Livingstone that went for 30. But Saqib Mahmood, despite all that, went at an economy throughout the whole series of 6.3. 6.3 per over. Just take that in. Saqib Mahmood. What a great little series he had. Apparently he went down a few days early to the West Indies with Chris Jordan. Chris Jordan, obviously great death bowler. He's been doing it in the T20 setup for years. Saqib Mahmood just taking on some really important information there from Chris Jordan. And Mahmood has really showed himself as a massive contender for this England side moving forward. And I think he will be one of the top picks without a doubt, alongside Jofra Archer. And finally, Dan Mosley, I would have liked him to be put in better positions in the batting order. He hasn't had a great chance to show off with the bat since the last time we did this podcast, but Yeah, he's shown that he can be a very intelligent and important bowler for this team. I mean, he's coming in at tricky situations, bowling at the death, bowling in the power play, and he's bowled well. He has bowled well. He sort of comes off about 5 steps and bowls over 70 miles an hour, which is ridiculous. I don't know if the speedo's making a couple of errors there, or he genuinely is bowling absolute rockets from 5 paces. But yeah, he's a really interesting bowler, and they're showing that it's hard to get him away. It's hard to play Dan Mosley, especially when you need runs late in the game or in the power play. Hopefully, he can keep his place. He's definitely not lost it, and he will definitely, hopefully, be getting some better opportunities in the future. Couple of small points to end on. Will Jacks, we've talked about him before on the podcast. It's tricky. I still think he needs more opportunities, but he's had 20 odd innings playing for England T20. Every time he's been batting in a decent position, and he's averaging around 17 with the bat and high score of 40. He's getting great opportunities, but he's just not kicking on at the minute. He's had a lot of starts, a lot of getting to 20 odd, 30 odd, but he's not kicking on. He's not playing badly, don't get me wrong. It's just he doesn't win your games. And now that Bethel and Mosley come along and they've got this sort of spinning aspect to their game, all of a sudden Jax, who has that as well, doesn't look quite as appealing. At the start, he's getting the 20s and 30s, and we're thinking, all right. And then he goes and gets us a few wickets, and you're thinking, okay, yeah, I know why he's in this team. But all of a sudden, you've got Bethel firing with the bat. He's got that option to bowl. You've got Dan Mosley, who's bowling well, and he's a great option to bat. And all of a sudden, Jax just isn't looking as he's not looking as good for the selectors now. He's had a lot of good chances. I hope he gets more because I've seen him. He's popped off in the IPL. He's done great stuff in the T20 Blast. So I hope he gets great opportunities. I'm sure he will, and I'm sure he can make use of them. A lot of people are very happy with John Turner. I think his figures have not reflected how well he's bowled. I think he's had a lot of runs, leaks out the outside edges, um, inside edges, and it's just his figures aren't representing how well he's bowled this series. I think the West Indians have definitely picked him as a target to go after him, and he's earned a couple of wickets. He's got a couple of wickets from that, but also he just meant that he's leaked some runs everywhere. And I think that he shouldn't feel disheartened because he's definitely one for the future. And a lot of pundits and selectors are really excited by him. So that's a big help for John Turner. As a look at the series as a whole, let's take a look at the toss, the big thing that's happened from this series. Now, every single game in both series, ODI and T20, that's 7 games. If you won the toss and you batted second, you win. Every single team batting second won the game in every game. And I think there's a lot of questions about why. Now, there is a reason. So, this series, compared to last series, the TV broadcasting rights has shifted the games forward by 2 hours, making it more watchable in England. So, it shifted it forward from 10 o'clock to 8 o'clock in English time. What it means is that there's more dew in the surface in the early part of the game. And this time that the game is in has almost shifted it into the period of time in West Indies where there is the biggest contrast of conditions from start to finish, if you see where I'm going. And moving it forward 2 hours gets the dew, there's more moisture in the air. And what that means is that first hour of batting is incredibly tricky to bat. And even if you get through that a couple wickets down, it still takes a bit of time for the batting conditions to get better. And it's shown that every single game, the team batting second has rocked up, and all of a sudden, it looks like they're playing on an absolute road. It looks like the ball's doing nothing. And that's just because there's no more dew left that there was in the start of the game. So a lot of the time, as England went 3-0 up after three T20s, it was because the West Indies were batting in the toughest parts of the game and being 3 down, 4 down pretty early. So the decks got better as the game went along. And it's a shame that the TV rights almost didn't ruin the series, but played a big part in what went on. So yeah, it was almost like batting first meant that you started -50 for none, you know? It almost meant that you had to make up the extra runs just because you were batting in tougher conditions, which again doesn't ruin it, but doesn't look good, does it? As the batting second side won every single game. Now, let's have a quick think of the moment of the week, the what's he on about moment of the week. We're going to go through a few nominees. Number one, we mentioned it earlier. I'd like to take a special time in the podcast to mention a incredible series of bowling from Livingston. It was almost match defining. I'm going to look through his figures now. Here we go. He bowled one over. It's a good one over. No maidens, as you can imagine. One dot, naught for 30. 30. To give you a lowdown, it started with five wides and ended with Evan Lewis popping him over mid wicket for a humongous six. That's just going to give you the lowdown there of how that over went. England obviously went on to lose with six balls to spare, and it does make you think if that over even went for 15, it would have been a very different end to the game. Honourable mention number two. I'd like to I'd like to mention India's T20 score of 283 for one. Just let that sink in for a minute. Number three came in Tilak Varma and hit a tame 120 not out of 47 deliveries, which included nine fours and 10 sixes. Poor old South Africa hit 150 in their reply and still managed to lose by 135 runs. So unlucky South Africa. I think you're just with a worse team on the day. And finally, in that scenario, I'd like to mention the opener Samson, who got 109 not out of 56 and actually had the lowest strike rate of any of the batters in that team. So an opener in a T20 game got 100 and he had the lowest strike rate of any of the other batters who batted in the team. Don't think that can't have ever happened before. 100 not out and you've got the lowest strike rate. Really shows you what was going on there. Anyway, my moment of the series award, moment of the week, sorry, goes to Nicholas Paran for what might be the greatest number three innings I have ever seen in my life. The poor man was sat in his pads for 12 overs in a T20 in the third T20. And he was sat in his pads for 12 overs watching the openers knock 136 for none. Evan Lewis then gets out. Paran comes out to the crease. He's thinking, maybe I could mix the game up a bit here. Maybe I could do something. So his captain at the other end comes to greet him. He's on 50 odd not out. Shy Hope probably says, nothing silly here. Let's just rebuild Nicholas Paran. Let's just rebuild this innings and just get the final 80 runs we need. So Paran first ball, knocks it to mid-off, calls yes, and then stands his ground. The captain Shy Hope is stranded in the middle of the wicket and gets run out. Great first ball, Paran. You've run out your skipper. Cheers. Second ball, Paran's thinking, all right, I really need to rebuild now. He hits the ball onto his own stumps. He's played on for 0 of 2. First ball, he ran out his skipper on 50 odd, and he's been a big part of a team hat trick for England. So thanks to Nicholas Paran, West Indies went from 136 to 1 to 136 for 3 in 2 balls. Thanks, Paran. Thanks for coming. Great knock from you and the worthy winner of the What's He On About moment of the week. Let's have a look forward now to India versus Australia. India have won all of the last 4 series between India and Australia, and Australia last won a test series against India in 2014-15. Can you believe that? India won both the last 2 series in Australia and both the last 2 series in India, sorry. Now it makes you think, what's going to decide this series? Batting. You might think that's obvious, but both bowling sides are almost legendary. They are top class bowling attacks. Australia, I don't need to mention. I think they say it enough, don't they? But India, you mean you got Jasprit Bumrah, you got Jadeja, you've got Ashwin, you've got Mohammad Shami, and Mohammad Siraj is a seriously good bowler as well. And when you've got these two bowling attacks against each other, they're gonna play an even role. And I think it's all down to the batters. Obviously, Australia are without Warner. I think that's a as much as it's a positive to the dressing room environment, not having David Warner in there. It's definitely going to be a little bit of a shock to the system as you get out there, and they could be one or two down quite early. But Nathan McSweeney is looking like he's going to make his debut alongside Usman Khawaja at the top. And that battle is going to be interesting between those two and then the Indian openers of Rahul and Jaiswal. They're two good openers. I think India have probably got the better pair of openers, a little bit more experienced in Test cricket. But that's going to be a really interesting battle. And it is going to be horrible as the bowling side. If the let's say India are batting and they're 120 for none with still Kohli and Pant in the shed, you're worried. But India obviously without Rohit Sharma for the first test, which looks like it's going to be a bit of a blow. But India have definitely got the stronger opening pair. Just want to make a quick mention to Usman Khawaja, who has said recently that I'll say his words. I'll say his words. He said Australian batters are not getting worse, but the pitches and the balls are getting harder. So cheers, Usman, for that great little stat. He's saying that averaging 30 is the new 40 for Australian domestic cricket, which again is slightly strange. I'd have thought averaging 40 is averaging 40. So cheers, Usman Khawaja, for that good stat there as you really throw the data at us. But moving back to the series, Kohli versus Smith. I mean, Kohli hasn't performed since 2020, and he's I just don't know with Kohli if he's still going to come for the big games or he's really just losing it. And I seriously hope that Kohli brings back for the big series. And I think if Kohli can fire, it's gonna be a tough series for Australia because all of a sudden India got a lot of good batters in there. But if Kohli performs, that's gonna be the difference. Steve Smith, I mean, Kohli v Smith is just gonna be a big battle. Whoever bats better of those two is you'd be set on to bet that team's gonna go on and win it. Another big battle is Pant versus Carey, the two keepers. I mean, both great players. Pant arguably better with the bat, but Carey again, both quite aggressive batters. Who's going to pop off? Who's going to be the keeper to seriously stamp their claim as the keeper of the series? Two great keeper batsmen there, both that could win you the game, both that could save a draw at the end. This is going to be another big battle. So it's gonna be decided by the batters. Few big battles in there. And if McSweeney goes well, all of a sudden in behind comes Labuschagne, Smith, Head, Marsh, Carey. And it's scary. It is scary. If India can maybe get a couple of early blows on maybe a Labuschagne and a Travis Head, that's looking good. You just want to make a couple of early inroads into that middle order. Don't let them feel too comfortable. That's going to be the main thing. So that's the India-Australia series. It's going to be decided by the batters for sure. And can Australia win for the first time in 10 years? Now, a quick shout out. If you haven't already, go and follow the TikTok. Go and chuck a few likes on the post if you like it, of course. If not, just don't dislike it and maybe watch it all the way through. Helps with the algorithm. I'd like to mention Send Me Over the Chips. He's a very honourable fan of mine, and he's been commenting on the TikToks. And to be honest, he's just been disagreeing with everything I say. So Send Me Over the Chips sounds like a pretty reliable resource. And yeah, and thanks for liking my videos. Send Me Over the Chips. I mean, maybe just with a little bit less abuse. Thank you. Um, Finally, I thought I'd bring a question to the listeners. I'm going to ask you, have a little think to yourself for maybe a minute or so. Have a think. Who has hit the biggest six in recorded cricket? International, that is. Who do you think has hit the biggest six? I've got a few names who are in the top 10. So if you get a name in the top 10, well done. Pat yourself on the back. However, I'm worried there's a bit of controversy for the top spot. Anyway, you've had a think. Here are some names. So in the top 10, if you said maybe Yuvraj Singh, Chris Gale, MS Dhoni, you'd be up there. That's the top 10. Liam Livingston with his massive up he hit in 2022 against Pakistan. He's up there. He's fourth. Guptill is second, third, sorry. These are all sort of in the 120s, 110 to 130, big sixes. Second place, just tickling into 130. Okay, all these lads are just in those 120 region. Brett Lee just breaks the 130 mark. How has he hit the second biggest six? Brett Lee hit 130 meter six in the 2005 Ashes series. But you're going to have to tell me what you think about this number one. Have a last think. Who's it going to be? Remember, up to second place has just reached into the 130-meter bracket. Now, from the honourable nation of Pakistan, who has been known for a little bit of controversy over the years, have said that Shahid Afridi, with the boom boom bat, has hit the biggest six. And let me tell you what it is, how big it is. They've actually given a range, which tells me there's something not great going on here. Now, apparently Shahid Afridi hit a six that was within the range 153 meters to 158 meters. Now, I had a look at the video, and don't get me wrong, it is an absolute mammoth. It's gone all the way onto the roof of a pretty big stadium. But the thing which gets to me, it's digging away at me. That they've given me a range of 5 meters. That instantly makes me think there's something not quite going not quite going right here. So let me know if you agree that that is the biggest six of all time. If you think a mate or someone has hit a bigger one, let me know. And don't forget to go and like the TikToks, like the YouTube videos, and I'm on Instagram as well at what's he on about _pod. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And as you go about your week, until next time, have a think to yourself. What is he on about? Cheers.